My name is Sue, and at 58 years old, I learned the hard way that appearances can be deceiving. After building a technology empire from nothing, I still preferred my simple clothes and modest lifestyle. My son James married an ambitious woman who judged books by their covers. Little did she know the mother-in-law she desperately tried to push away owned the very company that signed her paychecks. Before I tell you about the shocking dinner that changed everything, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and subscribe to hear more true family stories that will leave you speechless. I grew up in a small town in Nebraska where my parents taught me the value of hard work and humility. We never had much money, but we had love and respect for each other. My father worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table, and my mother sewed most of our clothes. They instilled in me a deep appreciation for the simple things in life and taught me that true worth comes from character, not possessions. When I was 18, I left home with nothing but a scholarship to study computer science and a dream to make something of myself. College was tough. While other students went out partying, I worked nights at a local diner and spent my free time in the computer lab, fascinated by the emerging world of technology. After graduation, I joined a small tech startup where I quickly rose through the ranks. By 30, I had developed several successful software applications and saved enough to start my own company, Horizon Technologies. The early years were challenging. I worked 16-hour days, took risks, and faced numerous rejections, but I persevered. Over the years, Horizon Technologies grew from a tiny office with 3 employees to a corporation with branches across the country. We specialized in innovative business software solutions, and our reputation for quality and customer service helped us secure major clients. Last year, our revenue exceeded $400 million. Despite my success, I maintained the same values my parents taught me. I lived in a nice but modest home, drove a reliable sedan rather than a flashy sports car, and preferred comfort over luxury in my clothing choices. My closet contained more jeans and sweaters than designer outfits. Why waste money on status symbols when I could invest it back into my company or donate to causes I believed in? My son James grew up understanding these values. I made sure he never felt entitled or privileged despite our wealth. He worked summer jobs throughout high school and college, starting at the bottom like everyone else. I was proud of the compassionate, hard-working young man he became. He earned his business degree and chose to forge his own path rather than relying on my connections. Then came Amanda. James met her at a charity gala 3 years ago. He called me the next morning, excitement bubbling in his voice as he described this beautiful, ambitious marketing executive who had captivated him. I was happy for my son and looked forward to meeting the woman who had stolen his heart. Our first meeting took place at an upscale restaurant. Amanda arrived in a designer dress, perfect makeup, and not a hair out of place. She was undeniably gorgeous, with long auburn hair, striking green eyes, and a dazzling smile. She spoke confidently about her career in marketing and her 5-year plan to reach an executive position. Something about her felt calculated, the way her eyes assessed my simple blue dress and minimal jewelry. The slight shift in her tone when James mentioned my career, referring to me vaguely as being in tech, rather than revealing my position as CEO. I noticed how her smile dimmed when I mentioned growing up poor or my preference for simple things. Still, I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps she was just nervous meeting her boyfriend's mother. James seemed truly happy, and that was what mattered most to me. I reminded myself not to judge too quickly. Over the next few months, I saw Amanda occasionally when she and James came for dinner. Each time I noticed her subtle disdain for my lifestyle. She would make comments like, "This house is so cozy," or, "Have you ever thought about updating your wardrobe? Sue, I know a fantastic personal shopper." Then came the surprising discovery. During a routine review of our regional branches, I noticed Amanda's name on the employee list at our Chicago office. She had recently been hired as a marketing manager, apparently unaware that the company was mine. The coincidence made me uneasy, but I decided to keep my position quiet. I wanted Amanda to get to know me as a person, not as the boss who could influence her career. In retrospect, perhaps that was my first mistake. But I truly believed that if she knew who I was, I would never see her authentic self. And I needed to know the real Amanda before she became part of our family. As their relationship progressed, so did my concerns. At a dinner before their engagement, Amanda spent most of the evening on her phone, barely engaging in conversation. When she did speak, it was to name-drop celebrities she had met, or to mention the exclusive restaurants she frequented. James seemed oblivious, his love for her blinding him to these warning signs. I tried to have a heart-to-heart with James about my concerns, but he brushed them aside. "Mom, you just need to get to know her better. Amanda is under a lot of pressure at work. Give her time." Time, I soon learned, would only reveal more troubling aspects of Amanda's character. James proposed to Amanda with a ring I offered him, a family heirloom that had belonged to my grandmother. It was a beautiful sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, unique and filled with history. When I presented it to James, I explained the significance and the generations of love it represented. However, Amanda had other ideas. 2 weeks after the proposal, James called to tell me that Amanda had exchanged the ring for a larger diamond. "She wanted something more modern, Mom," he explained awkwardly. "Something that fits her style better." I swallowed my hurt and forced a smile into my voice. "Of course, it's her ring now. She should have something she loves." But inside my heart cracked a little at this rejection of our family history. The wedding planning became a showcase of Amanda's preference for extravagance. She selected the most expensive venue in the city, a designer gown that cost more than my first car, and flowers flown in from exotic locations. The guest list grew to 300 people, many of whom James barely knew. "Are you sure this is what you want?" I asked my son during one of our increasingly rare moments alone. "Amanda deserves her dream wedding," he replied, though I caught the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "And her parents can't contribute much, so she's grateful we can help." I agreed to cover the costs, hoping this generosity would help build bridges between us. Perhaps once the stress of wedding planning passed, Amanda would relax and show a warmer side. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather and military precision. Everything went according to Amanda's elaborate plan. I chose to wear a simple but elegant blue dress, appropriate for a mother of the groom, but staying true to my understated style. When Amanda saw me in the bridal suite where I went to offer congratulations before the ceremony, her smile froze. "That's what you're wearing?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Yes, do you like it?" I responded, smoothing down the fabric. She exchanged glances with her bridesmaids. "Well, it's certainly different. I guess not everyone can pull off couture." Her friends tittered behind their hands. Throughout the reception, I overheard comments from Amanda's family. Her mother, a woman dripping in jewelry, despite their supposed financial limitations, whispered loudly enough for me to hear, "Can you believe James's mother? You'd think she could afford something better for her only son's wedding? She looks like she shops at a department store." Her cousin replied, "I heard she works in tech or something. Probably some middle management position. No wonder James wanted to move up in the world." James did his best to include me, bringing me onto the dance floor and introducing me to Amanda's relatives. But each time Amanda would quickly appear and whisk him away with some urgent matter that needed his attention. After the wedding, things deteriorated further. James and Amanda bought a house in an exclusive neighborhood far from my home. Their invitations became infrequent, always with an excuse attached. "The house isn't ready for visitors yet," or "Amanda is so busy with work these days." When we did meet, usually at restaurants of Amanda's choosing, she controlled the conversation, speaking over me and dismissing my opinions. If I mentioned my company, she would quickly change the subject, apparently uninterested in my little tech job, as she once called it. Phone calls with James became shorter and less frequent. I noticed he would lower his voice when Amanda entered the room, as though afraid she would disapprove of him talking to his mother. When I invited them for holidays, there was always a reason they couldn't come. Amanda's family took precedence, or they had booked an exotic vacation. For Amanda's birthday, I decided to make a genuine effort to connect. I purchased an expensive designer handbag I had noticed her admiring online. When she opened it, she barely mustered a thank you before setting it aside. Later, I saw it listed for sale on her social media page. The final revelation came through work. As CEO, I received anonymous employee feedback surveys from all branches. One comment caught my attention. Marketing manager Amanda Wilson frequently makes disparaging remarks about her mother-in-law, claiming she's an embarrassment and dresses like a poor person, despite her son marrying into a higher social circle. The comment went on to mention that she boasted about avoiding family gatherings and mocked my lifestyle to colleagues. Reading those words felt like a physical blow, not just because of Amanda's cruelty, but because my own son had allowed this situation to develop. Where was the young man I had raised to value character over appearances? I sat in my office that evening, staring at the family photo on my desk, wondering where we had gone so wrong. Over the next few months, Amanda's behavior toward me worsened from subtle disdain to outright disrespect. During a Sunday brunch at their home, she accidentally spilled orange juice on my new blouse, barely apologizing as she handed me one of her designer tops to change into, knowing it was several sizes too small. "Maybe this will motivate you to update your wardrobe, Sue," she said with a saccharine smile. "Fashion is so important in making the right impressions." James witnessed this, but merely gave me an apologetic glance before changing the subject. His silence hurt more than Amanda's actions. When had my son become so passive in the face of disrespect toward his own mother? At James's 32nd birthday dinner, Amanda dominated the conversation with stories about her recent promotion at Horizon Technologies. "I'm now overseeing the entire marketing department for the Midwest region," she boasted. "The CEO might be ancient, but at least whoever they put in charge of hiring recognizes talent when they see it." I nearly choked on my water. Ancient, I was 57 and ran marathons twice a year. "Have you ever met the CEO?" I asked, casually curious about how deep her deception ran. Amanda waved dismissively. "No one below VP level ever meets her. Some old lady who got lucky in the tech boom, from what I hear. Probably can't even use a smartphone without her grandkids helping her." She laughed at her own joke, while James shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The situation reached a breaking point during a lunch where Amanda invited several of her work friends. Not realizing I was the company owner, one colleague mentioned an upcoming executive retreat. "All the top brass will be there," she said. "I heard even the CEO is flying in." Amanda rolled her eyes. "God, I hope that old bat doesn't give another one of her humble beginnings speeches. We get it, you were poor, and now you're not. Move on already." I excused myself to the restroom, my hands shaking with anger and hurt. In the mirror, I saw a woman who had allowed herself to be diminished by someone who should have shown her respect. This couldn't continue. That evening, I made a decision. I would host a family dinner at Luminous, the most exclusive restaurant in the city, which happened to be owned by a close friend who had been one of my first investors. I would invite both families and finally reveal the truth about who I really was. The invitations went out elegant cream cards requesting the pleasure of your company for an important family announcement. Amanda called James immediately, demanding to know what the announcement might be. "Maybe Mom is retiring," I overheard him say on speakerphone, "or selling her house to travel." "Well, she better dress appropriately for Luminous," Amanda replied. "They have a strict dress code. Make sure she knows that her usual bargain bin outfits won't cut it." James mumbled something I couldn't hear, once again failing to defend me. The stage was set. After years of hiding my success to avoid attracting people who valued wealth over character, I prepared to step fully into my identity, not out of pride, but out of necessity. It was time for Amanda to learn that appearances could be deceiving and that respect should be given regardless of perceived status. I selected my outfit carefully for the evening, deliberately choosing something similar to what I might wear on a casual Friday at the office. Simple black pants, a comfortable sweater, minimal jewelry, and practical shoes. I arranged for my assistant to call me with an emergency that would delay my arrival, ensuring I would make an entrance after everyone was seated. As I drove to the restaurant that evening, I felt a strange mix of sadness and resolution. This wasn't how I had imagined welcoming a daughter-in-law into our family, but sometimes hard lessons were the only ones that truly taught us anything of value. The Luminous restaurant occupied the top floor of a gleaming skyscraper downtown, its panoramic windows offering breathtaking views of the city lights. Inside, crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over white linen tablecloths, fine china, and sterling silver cutlery. Each table featured fresh orchids and hand-calligraphed place cards. It was elegant, without being ostentatious, exactly why I had invested in the place years ago. By the time I arrived, everyone was seated at the private dining room I had reserved. Amanda's parents, Robert and Patricia Thompson, sat stiffly in their formal wear, clearly impressed, but trying not to show it. Amanda's younger sister, Tiffany, kept taking selfies against the city backdrop. James looked handsome but uncomfortable in his suit, his eyes constantly darting to the door awaiting my arrival. And Amanda sat at the center like a queen holding court, resplendent in a red designer gown, diamonds glittering at her throat and ears. I took a deep breath and entered the room. The maitre d', Michael, who had known me for years as both friend and investor, gave me a subtle wink as he announced, "Your final guest has arrived." All heads turned toward the door. I saw the shock register on Amanda's face as she took in my casual attire. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again like a fish out of water. "Sorry I'm late, everyone," I said warmly, taking the empty seat beside James. "Work emergency. You know how it is." Amanda's face flushed crimson, clashing with her dress. "Sue," she hissed, leaning across the table. "What are you wearing? This is Luminous. They have a strict dress code." I smiled placidly. "Don't worry about it, Amanda. Let's enjoy our evening." "Enjoy," she sputtered. "You look like you just walked in from gardening. You're embarrassing us all." James placed a hand on his wife's arm. "Amanda, please. It doesn't matter what anyone's wearing." She shook off his hand. "It absolutely matters. This restaurant has a 3-month waiting list. People dress for the occasion out of respect." Patricia Thompson cleared her throat nervously. "Perhaps we should order some appetizers." But Amanda wasn't finished. She stood up her chair, scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "I cannot believe you would show up looking like this. Do you have any idea what strings I had to pull to even get a reservation here?" The lie slipped easily from her lips, considering I had made the reservation myself. "Everyone at my office wants to dine here, and you show up dressed like that. What will people think that we associate with what, Amanda?" I asked quietly. "With people who don't belong here." She finished, her voice dripping with disdain. The table fell silent. James looked mortified, staring down at his plate. Robert Thompson coughed uncomfortably, while his wife Patricia seemed suddenly fascinated by the pattern on her napkin. "I think," Amanda said, her voice rising, "that perhaps you should leave and come back when you're dressed appropriately. This is humiliating." "Amanda," James finally spoke up, "that's enough." But she was beyond listening. Turning toward the door, she snapped her fingers at a passing security guard, a standard feature at Luminous, given its exclusive clientele. "Excuse me," she called. "We have a situation here." The guard, a tall man named David, who had worked at Luminous since it opened and knew exactly who I was, approached our table with professional courtesy. "How may I help you this evening?" Amanda pointed at me, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "This person is inappropriate for this establishment. She's clearly in violation of your dress code and is disrupting our important dinner. Please escort her out." David's eyes widened slightly as he looked between Amanda and me. "Ma'am, "Don't ma'am me," Amanda interrupted. "Just remove this pauper from our table immediately. She doesn't belong here." The entire room seemed to freeze. James half rose from his chair, his face pale with shock. "Amanda, stop this right now. That's my mother you're talking about." "And she's embarrassing you too," Amanda shot back. "Just look at her. She looks like she shops at a discount store. Get her out of here so we can enjoy our meal properly." David straightened to his full height, suddenly looking very official. "Ma'am, I'm afraid I can't do that." "Why not?" Amanda demanded, hands on her hips. "Because," David said carefully, "this lady is—" Before he could finish, Michael, the maitre d', returned, accompanied by the executive chef. Both men approached our table and bowed slightly in my direction. "Mrs. Wilson," Michael said warmly, "is everything to your satisfaction this evening? Chef Paolo has prepared several special dishes, not on the menu, just for you and your guests." Amanda's mouth fell open again. "Mrs. Wilson, you know her?" Michael looked confused. "Of course. Mrs. Wilson is one of our founding investors and a dear friend." A heavy silence fell over the table. Amanda's face drained of color so completely that for a moment I worried she might faint. "Investor," she repeated weakly. Chef Paolo nodded enthusiastically. "Mrs. Wilson has the finest palate. Her suggestions have improved our menu immensely over the years." He turned to me with genuine respect. "The private dining room is prepared exactly as you requested, Mrs. Wilson. We are honored to host your family tonight." I thanked them both, and they departed with another bow. Amanda slowly sank back into her chair, her eyes never leaving my face. "You're an investor in Luminous," she whispered. I nodded, then decided it was time for the full truth. "Among other ventures, including, as it happens, Horizon Technologies." Amanda's eyes grew so wide I thought they might pop out of her head. "Horizon? But that's where I—" "Yes," I confirmed. "I founded Horizon Technologies 30 years ago. I'm not just an investor, Amanda. I'm the CEO." The silence that followed was absolute. Even Tiffany had stopped taking selfies to stare at me in disbelief. "But that's impossible," Amanda finally managed. "The CEO is an ancient old lady who got lucky in the tech boom and can't use a smartphone without her grandkids helping her." I quoted her words from earlier, raising an eyebrow. "Those were your words, I believe." James put his head in his hands. "Oh my God." Robert Thompson cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should give James and Amanda a moment alone with Sue." "No need," I said calmly. "I think everything that needs to be said has been said." I folded my napkin and placed it beside my untouched plate. "Amanda, I'll see you in my office tomorrow morning at 9. James, we'll talk later." As I stood to leave, Amanda finally found her voice again. You tricked me. You never told me who you really were." I paused, looking directly into her eyes. "Would it have changed how you treated me? Should it have—" "Think about that tonight, Amanda. And remember, the security guard you just asked to throw out this pauper reports directly to the head of operations, who reports directly to me." With those words, I walked out, leaving behind a table of stunned faces and one very important lesson about judging people by appearances. The next morning, I arrived at my office earlier than usual. My assistant Taylor had already prepared coffee and placed a fresh notepad on my desk, sensing the importance of the upcoming meeting. "Amanda Wilson is waiting in the lobby," Taylor informed me. "She's been here since 8:30. I nodded, taking a sip of my coffee. "Let her wait until 9 exactly." Taylor hesitated. "She looks pretty shaken up. Word has already spread through the office that she's the CEO's daughter-in-law who tried to have you thrown out of Luminous last night." News traveled fast in corporate circles. I wasn't surprised, but I also wasn't going to let office gossip dictate my actions. 9 o'clock, Taylor, not a minute sooner." At precisely 9, Amanda was shown into my office. The contrast between her appearance now and at the restaurant was striking. Gone was the confident, arrogant woman in designer clothes. Today she wore a conservative business suit, her face pale and free of the heavy makeup she typically favored. She clutched her purse like a shield as she took the seat across from my desk. My office reflected my personality, practical, elegant, without being showy, and focused on function. Large windows offered views of the city bookshelves, held business texts alongside family photos, and a simple vase of fresh flowers added a touch of warmth. Nothing extravagant, nothing unnecessary. "Good morning, Amanda," I began, keeping my voice neutral. "Mrs. Wilson," she replied stiffly, then swallowed hard. "Sue, I want to apologize for my behavior last night. It was inappropriate and disrespectful." I studied her face, searching for sincerity. What I saw was fear, not remorse. She was afraid of losing her job, her status, her carefully constructed image. "Is that truly an apology, Amanda? Or are you simply worried about the consequences?" Her eyes darted around the room, taking in the awards on the wall, the framed photo of me shaking hands with the governor, the subtle indicators of power and influence she had never noticed in my home. "I didn't know," she finally said. "If I had known who you were—" "That's exactly the problem," I interrupted. "Your behavior should not depend on someone's title or bank account. Basic respect isn't reserved for those you think can benefit you." She looked down at her hands. "Are you going to fire me?" It would have been easy to say yes, to let anger and hurt guide my decision, but that wasn't who I was, and more importantly, it wouldn't teach the lesson that needed learning. "No, Amanda, I'm not going to fire you." Relief washed over her face, but it was premature. "Instead," I continued, "I'm reassigning you effective immediately." "Reassigning?" She blinked in confusion. "To another department, in a manner of speaking. For the next 3 months, you'll be working in our company cafeteria, specifically in dishwashing and kitchen cleanup." Amanda's jaw dropped. That's janitorial work. I'm a marketing manager with an MBA. You can't be serious." "I'm entirely serious. You'll report to Maria Gonzalez, our cafeteria supervisor. You'll work the same hours as our kitchen staff starting at 6 in the morning. You'll wear the same uniform. You'll receive the same pay as others in that position." "This is ridiculous," Amanda sputtered. "It's practically illegal. I could sue for workplace harassment." "You're welcome to consult with our legal department," I replied calmly. "They'll confirm that the company has the right to reassign employees as needed. Nothing in your contract guarantees a specific position." I leaned forward, placing my hands flat on the desk. "But before you go down that road, consider this. I'm offering you something valuable, Amanda. A chance to understand the dignity in all work. To learn that the woman who cleans your office after hours deserves the same respect as the executive who signs your paycheck. To see firsthand that your worth isn't determined by your title or your designer clothes." Amanda's face flushed with anger. "This is about revenge. You're punishing me because I embarrassed you." "No, this is about education, something your expensive schools clearly failed to provide." I handed her a folder. "Inside you'll find your new schedule and reporting instructions. Maria expects you at 5:45 tomorrow morning for orientation." "And if I refuse?" "Then you can clean out your desk today. The choice is yours." Amanda stared at the folder in her hands, tears of frustration welling in her eyes. "James won't stand for this. He'll be furious." "Actually," I said quietly, "James and I spoke earlier this morning. He agrees that this might be exactly what you need." That seemed to hit her harder than anything else, her husband taking his mother's side, the united front she had always feared. 3 months, she said finally, her voice small. "And then what? Then we'll reassess. Your future at this company will depend entirely on what you learn during this time." I stood, indicating our meeting was over. "One more thing, Amanda. The staff in our cafeteria works incredibly hard. They deserve courtesy and appreciation. Remember that when you're standing beside them tomorrow." As she left my office, shoulders slumped in defeat, I felt no satisfaction, only a profound sadness that it had come to this. I truly hoped that beneath the superficial status-obsessed exterior there was a person capable of growth and change, for James's sake and for the future of our family. My phone rang shortly after Amanda left. It was Robert Thompson, Amanda's father. "Sue," he began awkwardly, "Patricia and I wanted to apologize for our daughter's behavior. We're mortified, to say the least." "I appreciate that, Robert. We also," he continued hesitantly, "heard about her new position at the company." News traveled even faster than I thought. "She called us in tears this morning," he explained. "At first we were shocked, but after talking it through, Patricia and I both think it might be exactly what she needs." His words surprised me. "You do?" Robert sighed heavily. "We failed Amanda in many ways, Sue. We gave her everything she wanted, but not enough of what she needed. We taught her to climb social ladders, but not how to be a decent human being." There was genuine regret in his voice. Perhaps it's not too late for her to learn. After we hung up, I sat for a long time looking at the family photos on my desk. There was James as a toddler, proudly holding up a finger painting. James graduating from college, his face bright with promise. James and Amanda on their wedding day, both smiling, full of hope for the future. I wondered what new photos might someday join them, and whether the lesson I was trying to teach would help shape a better future for us all. The first week of Amanda's new assignment was predictably difficult. Maria Gonzalez, the cafeteria supervisor, reported that Amanda arrived with an attitude, complained constantly, and did the bare minimum required. She refused to make eye contact with coworkers and flinched whenever someone recognized her from her former position. "She acts like touching a dirty dish will give her a disease," Maria told me during our weekly check-in. The other kitchen staff are starting to resent her attitude. "Give her time," I advised, "and please don't treat her differently just because she's my daughter-in-law." Maria smiled knowingly. "Don't worry, in my kitchen everyone is equal. She'll learn that soon enough." James called me almost daily, torn between concern for his wife and support for my decision. "She comes home exhausted every night," he said. "Her hands are getting rough from the hot water and detergents. She cried herself to sleep yesterday." "And how are you feeling about all this?" I asked my son. There was a long pause. "Honestly, I'm ashamed, Mom. Ashamed that I let her treat you that way for so long. Ashamed that I wasn't strong enough to stand up to her. We all make mistakes, James. What matters is how we learn from them." "She's different at home now," he admitted. "Quieter, less demanding. I'm not sure if it's depression or reflection, but something's changing." By the third week, Maria reported small improvements. Amanda had stopped complaining out loud, though her body language still radiated resentment. She was completing her tasks more efficiently and had even thanked a coworker who helped her with a particularly heavy tray of dishes. In the fourth week came a breakthrough of sorts. Maria called me directly, excitement in her voice. "You won't believe what happened today. One of our regular executives, that arrogant VP from legal who always snaps his fingers at servers, he made a huge mess and then commented loud enough for everyone to hear. That's what the cleaning staff is for, right?" "Let me guess," I said. Amanda heard him. Better than that, she confronted him, told him that making unnecessary work for others showed poor character and that he should respect the people who make his lunch possible. The whole cafeteria went silent. Then he actually apologized and cleaned up his spill. I couldn't help smiling. "That's unexpected." "There's more," Maria continued. Afterward, when one of the other kitchen workers thanked her for speaking up, Amanda said something interesting. She said, "A month ago I would have been just like him. Sometimes we need to see ourselves from the other side." The changes continued gradually. Amanda started carpooling with 2 other cafeteria workers who lived near her neighborhood. She brought in homemade cookies for the staff break room. She began learning Spanish phrases to communicate better with some of the kitchen workers. James reported similar changes at home. She started doing her own laundry instead of sending it out. Last weekend, she suggested we volunteer at a homeless shelter instead of going to that exclusive club she used to love. Mom, she even returned some ridiculously expensive shoes she bought last month, saying they were unnecessarily extravagant. Near the end of the second month, I decided to visit the cafeteria during lunch rush. I occasionally ate there anyway, preferring its honest food and atmosphere to fancy business lunches. I spotted Amanda immediately working at the dish return station, dressed in the standard uniform hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She saw me too, our eyes meeting across the crowded room. But instead of embarrassment or resentment, she gave me a small, genuine smile and a nod of acknowledgement. It wasn't forgiveness or reconciliation yet, but it was a start. After her shift that day, Amanda asked to speak with me. We sat in a small conference room near the cafeteria, neither of us quite comfortable, but both willing to talk. "I owe you a real apology," she began, looking directly at me for perhaps the first time since I'd known her. "Not because you're the CEO or because you're James's mother, but because I treated another human being with disrespect, and that was wrong." "Thank you, Amanda. That means a lot to me." She twisted her hands together, her nails no longer perfectly manicured, but clean and practical for her work. "Working here has taught me things I never expected to learn. These people I used to barely notice. They have families and dreams and problems just like everyone else. Maria is putting her daughter through college. Luis is caring for his elderly parents. They work harder than anyone I've ever met in the executive suites." Her eyes filled with tears. "I was so obsessed with climbing the corporate ladder that I trampled over anyone I thought was beneath me, including you, especially you." "Why me in particular?" I asked gently. Amanda wiped at her eyes. "Because you threatened everything I thought I wanted. Your values, your simplicity. It made me question whether all the things I was chasing actually mattered. and instead of having the courage to face that question, I tried to push you away. It was the most honest conversation we'd ever had. Not complete healing, but a crucial beginning. At the end of the 3 months, I called Amanda to my office again. This time she arrived with a different demeanor, altogether confident, but not arrogant, respectful, but not fearful. "Your assignment in the cafeteria has officially ended," I told her. "Maria speaks highly of your recent work ethic and attitude." Amanda nodded, waiting. "I'm offering you your previous position back," I continued. "Same title, same responsibilities." "Thank you," she said sincerely. "But before I accept, I'd like to propose something else." This surprised me. "I'm listening." During these 3 months, I've seen how disconnected our marketing department is from the reality of our frontline workers. We create campaigns about company culture without understanding the experiences of the people who make this place run day to day. Her eyes lit up with genuine passion. "I'd like to develop a new initiative that bridges that gap. A program that requires every executive and manager to spend at least 1 week per year working alongside our service staff." I studied her face, impressed despite myself. "That's actually an excellent idea, Amanda." "I've already drafted a proposal," she said, sliding a folder across my desk. "Maria helped me refine it. We're calling it Walking in Their Shoes." As I looked through her thoughtful, detailed plan, I realized that the lesson I'd hoped to teach had taken root in ways I hadn't anticipated. Amanda hadn't just learned humility, she'd found purpose. "Let's implement this," I decided, "and I want you to lead it alongside your regular marketing duties." For the first time since I'd known her, Amanda's smile reached her eyes, genuine and warm. "Thank you for not giving up on me, Sue, for seeing something worth saving." "We're family," I told her simply. "That's what family does." 3 months after Amanda returned to her marketing position, our family gathered for dinner at my home. Not at a fancy restaurant, not with designer outfits or expensive wine, just a simple meal prepared with love in the kitchen where James had grown up. Amanda arrived early to help me cook something that would have been unimaginable a year ago. She wore jeans and a casual sweater, her hair pulled back, looking more comfortable in her skin than I had ever seen her. "James told me you turned down the VP position," I commented as we chopped vegetables side by side. She nodded. "It wasn't right for me, not now. The Walking in Their Shoes program is expanding to all our branches, and I want to oversee that personally. Besides," she added with a small smile, "I'm learning that titles aren't as important as I once thought." The transformation in Amanda had rippled outward, affecting everyone around her. James seemed happier and more confident, no longer caught between his wife and his mother. Her parents, Robert and Patricia, had simplified their own lifestyle, even volunteering at the same shelter Amanda and James now regularly visited. As we sat around my dining table that evening, sharing food and conversation, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The painful confrontation at Luminous seemed like a lifetime ago, though barely 7 months had passed. "I have an announcement," Amanda said as we finished dessert. She reached for James's hand, both of them suddenly looking nervous and excited. "We're having a baby." The room erupted in congratulations and hugs. Through happy tears, Amanda added, "We're hoping our child will have your values, Sue, your understanding of what truly matters in life." Later, as we cleared the dishes together, Amanda confessed, "I used to think I wanted my children to have status and privilege above all else. Now I hope they'll have something much more valuable, the ability to see people for who they really are, not what they own or what position they hold." I thought about the grandchild who would soon join our family, a new generation with the opportunity to learn from our mistakes and our growth. "You know what I've learned through all this," I said, passing her a plate to dry. "That sometimes the hardest moments in our lives become the most important turning points. That dinner at Luminous was humiliating for both of us, but without it, we might never have found our way to genuine understanding." Amanda nodded thoughtfully. "I think about that night often. How I called security on my own mother-in-law. How blind I was to what really mattered." She placed the dried plate carefully in the cabinet. "I'm grateful every day that you chose a difficult lesson over an easy dismissal. Life rarely gives us perfect endings, but sometimes it offers us the chance to begin again with greater wisdom." The painful journey Amanda and I shared had transformed not only our relationship, but our entire family. As I look back now, I understand that true wealth has nothing to do with bank accounts or job titles. It lies in the courage to face our flaws, the humility to learn from our mistakes, and the wisdom to value people for their character rather than their status. Have you ever had to teach someone a difficult lesson about respect or humility? How did you handle it, and what was the outcome? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life family experiences. Sometimes the most powerful changes come from our most painful moments. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that appearances can be deceiving, but character always reveals itself in time.